Chapter 8. Love in Maturity, the love that understands, not just feels. Do you remember how you loved at 17 to 18? Those sleepless nights on the phone, the drama of every breakup lived as if it were the end of the world. Love in adolescence and early adulthood is like a fireworks display, dazzling, unpredictable, intense, and chaotic. It hits you out of the blue, takes your breath away, and sometimes vanishes as quickly as it appeared. But at 30 plus something shifts, doesn't it? Love no longer sweeps us away like a summer storm. It wraps around us like a quiet autumn evening. It's less explosive, but warmer and steadier. Why? Because we have changed in the meantime. As we grow, we learn a few essential lessons about love. At 20, we believed true love meant you couldn't live without the other person, that you had to feel the flame of passion blazing at full strength all the time. By around 30, we discover that mature love sometimes also means quiet and room to breathe. Not that you can't live without the other, but that you choose to live alongside them day after day. It's the difference between dependence and conscious choice. Immature love desperately needs the other. I can't live without you. Whereas mature love says, I want you by my side, but I can be whole on my own. In other words, mature love chooses you. It doesn't consume you. Think back to your first relationships. Stormy jealousy over small things, intense fights followed by spectacular reconciliations. All those upheavals came from insecurity, the high-spirited hormones of youth, and the fact that we were still finding ourselves. By contrast, in maturity, we're more at peace with ourselves. We know who we are and what we want, so our love settles differently. Couples who have been together for years may seem more tame or even bored, but in fact they're simply calmer. They're no longer on an emotional roller coaster. They're moving forward on a straight road, hand in hand. The more mature our love becomes, the more peaceful and stable it is, without necessarily losing its warmth. Another sign of mature love is how we solve problems. Adolescent love often ignores problems for fear of ruining the magic, or, on the contrary, blows any misunderstanding out of proportion. In a mature couple, partners know arguments are normal, and the solution isn't to avoid them but to address them with calm and honesty. Two people who love with maturity will sit down as a team, put the issue on the table, and look for a solution together. It's no longer me versus you, it's us versus the problem. Have you noticed this in long-standing couples? They've learned to negotiate, communicate openly, apologize when they're wrong, and make compromises where at 20 their pride might have stopped them. Mature love doesn't demand perfection and doesn't run at the first obstacle. On the contrary, it seeks to repair and to understand. We also come to understand the importance of healthy boundaries. In youth, driven by the urge to keep the relationship at any price, some people give up on themselves. They accept anything, forgive everything instantly, and let themselves be walked all over, believing this is love, total sacrifice. But mature love doesn't turn you into anyone's servant. On the contrary, it involves two independent people, each with self-respect, who clearly set what is and isn't acceptable in the relationship. If you truly love with maturity, the message becomes, I love you and I will support you, but I will not tolerate being hurt emotionally or physically. Each person has lines that even love does not cross, and that's a good thing. A healthy relationship is also built on each person's self-love. After all, you can't love someone else in a mature way if you don't love yourself enough not to accept abuse or injustice. Thus, mature love includes mutual respect, as well as respect for oneself. With age also comes greater trust, when the relationship is truly solid. If at 19 you lived in constant fear that your partner would leave you or cheat, at 30 you're more likely to have left those insecurities behind. Mature love is grounded in mutual trust. You no longer feel the need to check your partner's phone in secret, and you no longer torment yourself imagining catastrophic scenarios with every 5-minute delay. You know your worth and what you've built together, so chronic uncertainty fades. By contrast, immature love lives in insecurity. Like a house built on sand, any breeze can knock it down. Mature love is like a house on a solid foundation. It rests on trust and emotional safety, built over time. Of course, this doesn't mean jealousy or fear never arise in a mature relationship, but the way they're handled is different, with clarifying conversations and honest reassurance, not scenes and unfounded accusations. Interestingly, science has its own way of explaining these shifts. Studies in neurobiology suggest that intense passion, that phase of blind infatuation, full of euphoria and the adrenaline of beginnings, has a limited duration, usually from a few months to at most 2 or 3 years. That's normal. Our bodies and brains can't stay forever in the chemical high of the beginning. After the hormonal fireworks subside, we enter a different stage of the relationship in which deep attachment, positive familiarity, and long-term connection come to the fore. In other words, once the fireworks fade, a couple has a choice. Either the flame dies out completely, or it turns into a steady ember, a warm campfire that needs tending. This is where conscious effort comes in. In youth, everything seemed to happen by itself. In maturity, we realize that a fulfilling relationship needs work and active involvement from both partners. Communication becomes key, honesty too, and above all patience, the patience to get through hard times together, not to throw the relationship away at the first bump, as we might have done in adolescence. Mature love is a daily choice to be there, present and engaged, not just the rush of a passing emotion. At 30 plus, we have another advantage. We know ourselves better. We know our needs, we know our flaws, and we learn to accept them, our own and our partners'. In our early years, we tended to idealize the person we loved. We saw them as perfect, a flawless soulmate. Inevitably, reality contradicted the fantasy and disappointments followed. In maturity, we know perfection doesn't exist. We're no longer looking for a fairy tale ideal. We appreciate someone real, compatible, with whom we can grow. Mature love doesn't mean you don't see the other's flaws. On the contrary, you see them clearly, but you consciously choose to love the whole package. It's as if you're saying, I know you're not perfect, neither am I, but I accept you and I'm staying with you anyway. That takes emotional maturity, doesn't it? Not running at the first sign of imperfection, but staying and building together. In mature love, acceptance replaces idealization. Your partner doesn't have to be impeccable to be right for you, and flaws are no longer turned into weapons, but are seen as an integral part of the person. Two imperfections can decide not to flee from each other, but to move forward shoulder to shoulder. That's the charm of seasoned love. Of course, not all relationships survive the shift from adolescent love to mature love. Many young loves fade with the initial magic if the partners can't move to the next level. Sometimes, separation in adulthood happens precisely because one person remains stuck in unrealistic expectations or because two people simply evolve differently and no longer resonate. But even breakups look different at 30 than at 18. Remember how, at 18, if you broke up, it felt like the world was ending? At 30, although the pain is real, we usually handle it differently, with more calm and sometimes with more respect for the other person. Two mature adults can decide to go their separate ways without demonizing each other, even remaining on civil terms. That's a world apart from the drama and resentment that often accompanied heartbreak in adolescence. And sometimes, life offers a second chance. We reconnect with people from our past or meet a new love when we least expect it, and discover that late blooming love can be far deeper precisely because we come to it with all our prior experience. There are couples who find their way back to each other years after an initial breakup and realize that this time they're ready for one another. It's as if they're different people now, more patient, more understanding, less self-centered. Mature love can be born on the second or even third try, especially after we've learned from past mistakes. Those who have suffered and healed their hearts now know how to value a relationship differently. It's no coincidence that each of us has at least one shot at true love in a lifetime, and it usually arrives after a few painful lessons when we're mature enough to recognize it and cherish it. After all, love in maturity is a bit like a fine wine. It may have lost some of the zesty bite of youth, but it has gained a richer, deeper aroma. It's less dizzying at the first sip, yet it warms your soul slowly for the long haul. Mature love doesn't mean romance or passion no longer exist. They do, simply gentler and woven into everyday life. It's the kind of love that brings you coffee in the morning and knows your favorite song. It may sound less like eros and more like pragmatism, but in truth it's a pragmatism suffused with tenderness. It's far more real and, dare we say, more beautiful over time. Mature love is the kind that understands, not just feels. It doesn't rely solely on the blind chemistry of the moment, but on mutual knowledge, communication, and a conscious choice to build together. It's the love in which heart and mind work in tandem. You feel the emotion, of course, sometimes even more deeply than in youth, yet at the same time you understand your partner and the context. You temper your reactions, and you love in a steadier way. It's less about living a perfect story and more about living a real one, side by side, day after day. And that has a poetry of its own, subtle and deep, worthy of all our admiration. The pale light of a forgotten lamp left on in the hallway spilled into Jennifer and Michael's kitchen. On the table, 2 cups of tea steamed gently, releasing the scent of chamomile. Jennifer sat on a chair, palms wrapped around the warm cup, gazing thoughtfully at her wavering reflection in the golden liquid. A trace of tears still clung to the corners of her eyes, yet her face was calm now, only tired. By the door, Michael watched her in silence, leaning against the frame. He hesitated, as if he didn't know how to begin the conversation. The silence between them was heavy with unspoken emotion. "Is the tea warm enough?" Michael asked at last, his voice low, breaking the silence. Jennifer looked up at him and gave a small nod, then took a sip. The warm liquid soothed her throat, parched from the tears she'd shed earlier. Michael pulled out a chair and sat down slowly across from her. He rubbed his hands together, then laced his fingers on the table, almost touching Jennifer's. He sighed and, eyes fixed on their hands, said with regret, "I'm sorry, Jennifer." She drew her thin shawl closer around her shoulders and met his gaze. The soft light made her brown eyes look even darker. "I'm sorry too. I didn't mean to yell at you earlier," she whispered. "I just felt ignored." The words hung between them. Michael brushed a stray lock of hair off his forehead, an awkward gesture. "I know. You're right," he murmured. "I've been working late a lot lately. I've neglected you. I know it hurt when I forgot about dinner with your friends last night. I was an idiot." Jennifer shook her head and a chestnut curl fell across her cheek. "It's not just the dinner, Michael. It's everything. The fact that I barely see you awake during the week. And when you finally are home, your mind is still at work. I feel like I'm losing you," she confessed, her voice trembling slightly on the last words. Michael reached across the table and covered Jennifer's hand, which was still wrapped around her mug. His warm fingers closed around her small, cold hand. "You're not losing me, sweetheart. I'm here, with you," he said slowly, deliberately, searching her eyes. "And I'm sorry I made you feel otherwise. Nothing matters more to me than the 2 of you." He paused, as if choked by his own emotions. Jennifer knew that by the 2 of you he meant her and their little girl, fast asleep in the next room. Jennifer gave a sad smile and turned her palm under his, squeezing it. "I know, but sometimes we forget to show that to each other. I've been tired lately too," she went on with a sigh. "Work, our daughter, the housework. And you, always doing overtime. It feels like we barely get to be husband and wife anymore, just roommates leaving post-it notes on the fridge." At those words, Michael felt a lump in his throat. He suddenly remembered the days when it had been just the 2 of them, a decade ago, when they'd head out on a whim to a late-night movie or sit talking until dawn on a park bench. When was the last time they'd had a moment just for themselves, without rushing? He couldn't even remember. "You're right," he whispered, squeezing her hand with genuine feeling. "We've let routine swallow us. I promise I'll make a change, Jennifer. I'll talk to them at work tomorrow about cutting back my overtime. I want, for us to be a priority too, not just my job." He looked up at her with the hint of a smile. "After all, what am I working so hard for? For us, so we can be okay. But if we're not okay, then nothing else makes sense." Jennifer felt tears well up, this time out of relief. She gently freed her hand and touched his unshaven cheek, caressing him. "Thank you for understanding. And I'm sorry I yelled," she said softly. "It's just that I missed you, Michael. I missed us." "Me too," he whispered, covering her hand on his cheek with his own palm. Then he tried to lighten the mood, with the faintest smile. "Who would have thought, huh? If we were still a pair of 20-year-olds, we probably wouldn't even still be sitting at the table. You'd have packed your bags after you yelled at me, and I'd have slammed the door behind you, like in the movies." Jennifer gave a soft laugh, the first genuine laugh of that tense evening. She, too, remembered a moment from long ago, back when they'd just moved in together. "True. Remember how mad I got when you showed up late to my 22nd birthday party and didn't even call me? I was ready to break up with you then, out of sheer pride," she said, shaking her head at the memory. "And I was a stubborn, immature guy," Michael admitted, with a rueful grin. "I brought you a huge bouquet of red roses to make peace, as if flowers could undo everything." "Well, they helped a little," Jennifer laughed. "We were a couple of clueless kids." "Yeah, just kids," he agreed with a knowing smile. "What are we now?" "Just a couple of tired adults drinking tea," she joked, shrugging and wiping away a stray tear of laughter with the back of her hand. "Tired adults who love each other," Michael added, meeting her eyes in the light. In the pale candlelight, Jennifer saw the gentle sincerity in his gaze, the same look that had once won her over, now tempered by years but just as warm. At those simple words, Jennifer felt her heart stir, not the frantic butterflies of youth, but a warm, settled thrill. She rose from her chair and walked around the table to Michael. He pushed his chair back at once and gathered her into his arms. Jennifer settled on his lap, resting her forehead against his weary shoulder. Michael held her close, his chin coming to rest atop her soft hair. They stayed like that for a few moments, in silence lulled by the barely audible ticking of the wall clock. They felt at peace. "We're going to be okay, right?" she whispered, eyes closed, listening to the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. "We're going to be okay, together," Michael replied, just as softly, kissing the crown of her head. In the darkened kitchen, the tea in their cups had long since gone cold, but something else warmed Jennifer and Michael now. The certainty that, no matter how much might change in their lives, they had each other, and even if life was no longer the stuff of youthful fairy tales, their love was there, calmer, deeper, and stronger than it had ever been. Jennifer and Michael are facing a real relationship challenge, emotional distance created by the stress of daily life, and the way they handle it reflects the hallmarks of mature love. Instead of ignoring the problems or dramatizing them, they choose to communicate openly and calmly. After the initial argument settles, we see them sitting at the kitchen table, speaking honestly about what they feel. Jennifer vulnerably voices her fears. "I feel like I'm losing you," instead of stockpiling silent resentments. And Michael listens with empathy, apologizes for his absence, and proposes a concrete solution, cutting back on overtime. This, the two of us versus the problem approach, shows maturity. Both put the relationship first, demonstrating responsibility and mutual respect. It's a world apart from how they would have reacted in their youth, as they themselves joke. At 20 it would likely have led to a stormy scene or a prideful breakup, rather than a calm, rational conversation. We see then an acceptance of imperfections and a willingness to forgive small mistakes, just as in a mature love that seeks understanding, not perfection. Instead of pride or the stubborn need to be right at any cost, Jennifer and Michael choose to own their vulnerability and to repair what isn't working. Their tender gestures at the end, the quiet embrace, the kiss on the crown, the mutual assurance that they will be okay together illustrate the steadiness and depth of the feelings they share. It's no longer about fiery declarations, but about emotional safety and a settled affection that can be felt in simple words and the comfortable silence between them. Jennifer and Michael's story shows that mature love is the kind of love that understands, not just feels. The two truly hear and see each other, communicate without pretense, support one another, and consciously choose to stay together and to cultivate their love day after day. This, in essence, is the beauty of love in maturity, a quieter love, yet infinitely deeper and more enduring. Mature love may no longer have the reckless sparkle of teenage romances, but it offers a gentle, steady light that nourishes the soul day after day. It is the kind of love in which two people truly know each other and accept one another as they are. It's tender, patient, and sincere. Instead of the dramatic gestures and stormy declarations of the past, mature love shows itself in small, everyday attentions, a kind word when you've had a bad day, a cup of tea brought without being asked, a whispered thank you, or an I'm sorry said at the right time. It's less about butterflies and fleeting ecstasy, and more about the quiet reassurance of belonging to someone, even in silence. Mature love is like a refuge after the turbulence of youth, a safe place where you can be yourself, knowing you are loved, heard, and understood. And what could be more beautiful than knowing that someone loves you because they truly see you and consciously chooses every day to be there beside you? At its core, mature love is love as partnership, two hearts beating in a calm, steady rhythm, holding hands as they walk through life together, through the good and the bad, with smiles and wrinkles.